Hey guys, Dingo here. Today I'm sitting down with Maki, the co-founder of SushiSwap. In this episode, we discuss how SushiSwap got started, the kinds of people they tend to hire, their relationship with Uniswap now in 2021, the benefits of listening to community engagement, government regulations, why Americans are being uniquely excluded out of cryptocurrency, and what it's like being on the frontier of DeFi. And all this is just scratching the surface in this incredible interview. I really hope you guys enjoy this. Thank you. Hey guys, Dingo here, back with another episode of the Saffron Academy podcast. Today we're sitting down with Maki from SushiSwap. SushiSwap is a popular Ethereum-based decentralized exchange that allows users to swap tokens, earn rewards via yield farming, and more. Maki in particular is a pseudo-anonymous full-stack engineer who helped launch SushiSwap alongside Chef Nomi, and it's a really amazing opportunity to get the man himself on our platform. So Maki, how are you doing today, man?
Hello, sir. I'm doing pretty well. Thank you very much for the intro.
Yeah, no problem. If you don't mind, I'd like to peel back the curtain a little bit and just get some of the backstory on SushiSwap for those of our listeners who aren't totally familiar with the origin story per se, because it is probably one of the most wild rides in crypto I think I have come across in recent memory. It started essentially as a Uniswap fork, and it has kind of evolved into its own sort of beast. Um, and the way you guys offer sushi tokens as incentive for people to provide liquidity is was revolutionary. And I'd love hearing about sort of I believe they call it the vampire attack or or whatnot for liquidity. So if you can maybe kind of walk us through maybe the early beginnings with you and Chef Nomi and sort of how this whole thing got started, that'd be phenomenal.
Sure. Very easy. I mean, I was scavenging Twitter, the crypto Twitter that we all love and hate. And one day I just literally stumbled upon this kind of very interesting Medium article that was pitching basically what a community-owned Uniswap would look like, where, like the distribution, instead of being kind of, I would say, directly going to VCs and the team, the initial team, would be kind of distributed entirely or mainly to the LPs, which are basically like populating this protocol. That seemed like very cool and kind of in theory, and then was wondering like, could this work, right? Is this kind of actually gonna happen? What is here? So I joined the Discord. There is literally like I think 9 people in it. There's like a guy at the very top of the Discord called Chef Nomi, which is yeah the chef of the restaurant. So start to talk about it. Hey, what is going on here? Is this real? Is this for fun? Like the tokenomics are true. You guys are gonna flip the switch on Uniswap and the fees accurate to this like governance token. Um, get an answer like literally like by this big panda character, and it's like yeah, we're actually like we think that we need to ensure something to these quote unquote VCs and kind of deals happening behind back door and so on and so on. Because if you go back a little bit, you need to remember this was when there was no token for Uni. They just raised the Series A. There was
Mm.
Uniswap that was also raising capital. There was Balancer that raised also some capital. So there was not really, there was of course like Banker that did like a massive ICO back then, but they were not really in the picture.
Right.
And yeah, it's just like they said, we would just want to do this and get there. So I said, you know what? I've been dying to get in this space. I've been highly motivated to implicate myself with Uniswap and so on. It's been extremely difficult. For the people listening here, they don't realize how hard it can be to join these kind of DeFi crypto team that were during the bear market 2018, 19, 20, where they all ask experience, they all ask credential in the crypto space, which is very hard to crack in. So yeah, I mean, decided to implicate myself, and here I am today. We built like this amazing protocol with over like 20 full-time contributors
Yeah.
and a lively community, like one of the most die-hard community I've seen in the DeFi space.
Yes.
And for reasons, because we're very open and we engage a lot. So this is kind of how it went. I asked Chef Nomi to become the general manager of the restaurant. Okay,
Mm,
like a very a moderator, like in Insight, where
cool.
I would welcome guests to our venue and basically have them troubleshoot their LP provision problems and answering any question, finding the audits for or MasterChef contracts and so on. So it was a very kind of exciting times that we're about to turn 1 year, and now today it's totally different. But
So if I heard you right, does that mean that you had no real experience prior to SushiSwap working in the cryptocurrency industry?
I had no experience working in DeFi and kind of with these kind of
I see. Wow.
protocols. Yeah,
Okay.
indeed. So that was very far from me, very alien. I didn't know the space from very far away, like I've been implicated or at least following kind of everything related to crypto since 2017.
Right.
And then, like more like I've been an early users of pretty much all the crypto dApps and so on. So
Right. But in terms of DeFi, this was kind of your first foray into it. And what a landing, man. Like what a first time. That's incredible that you turned into something this elaborate and this popular. Because I believe I want to say within a week of you guys fully launching, you guys were approaching, if not exceeding, over $1 billion in total lot value.
yeah, back then that was like, a gigantic figure that we held the record for quite some time until I think it was Big Data DAO or something came.
Mhm.
They did it in 24 hours. So this is just a statement on to how quickly this space is now moving, and the liquidity providers are more sophisticated. So, but yeah, it was unheard of. We're talking about a time in in DeFi where Uniswap V2 just crossed like 200 million, 250 million in TVL, which
Yeah.
was crazy because only like 1 2 months ago they were at 80 and they were unable to get higher. Most of the liquidity, the TVL was in money market, like Compound, Aave, to some extent MakerDAO. MakerDAO
Mhm.
was actually like the biggest for a very long time. But anyways, that is exactly how it went through, how it happened, and that was Chef Nomi was ultimately, after 2 weeks left in a
Right.
very bad manner, like was accused of rugging the pool, rug pulling everyone by selling the treasury tokens for 14 million worth of
14 million.
ETH.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and then kind of disappeared for quote unquote 1 week before giving back the money. And he stayed with us a little bit after that. He stayed maybe like I would say like 1 month to kind of make sure everything was fine, and then kind of left. And I know he's still keeping up with sushi development and so on. And we always have a room, a place for him if he wants to come. He is like one of the most, um, in my opinion, like dedicated Met head I've met
Hmm.
in my life. It was highly inspiring when we talked together, and I never had any kind of doubts about him.
Yeah.
Of course, that was kind of when the rug was pulled. I was a little bit blindsided, and lots of people were telling me that I should have seen it coming, and there was red flags and so on. But we were able to go through it, and I think these events really kind of shaped on how sushi is today, and yeah, made for a very crazy story that's probably gonna be a movie at some point.
I was gonna say that. Yeah. Like, well, because in the end, I feel like it was ultimately beneficial for the protocol, because even though Chef Nomi did kind of walk away with the $14 million worth in ETH, he did return, and it also kind of, I believe he turned over control of it to one of his biggest critics for some time, and it kind of helped inadvertently pave the way to make this protocol and make SushiSwap just completely decentralized and community driven. And I noticed, and I might be getting my timeline a little bit off here, but I noticed like not long after that, Uniswap itself actually started sort of almost following suit in terms of like releasing the Uni airdrop. I believe that was like the maybe the second or third week of September, to people who had used the protocol. I mean, how much of that of Uni's response do you think was? Let me rephrase. So, how much of Uni's kind of rollout of their tokens and their governance? How much of that do you think was a response to what you guys were working on with
A
SushiSwap?
hundred percent. That was because of sushi. I think it's been very clear that Uniswap has become reactionary to some of our steps in action.
Mhm.
The token was one of them, and like I think no one is unhappy about this. I think everyone won with this. Um, if sushi would have been only there to make sure that they distribute this token and make it happen, and we close the book, I think people would have been happy. But
Mhm.
what we did was, I think, more important than this, where like we actually like there was some liquidity mining happening before, but MasterChef, the smart contract spawned like over 1,000 farms. This is now like in the playbook of any project launching. You need to have a liquidity mining program. If you can do it with sushi, that's even better. There's no point in going there alone. By the way, it's way more
Mhm.
important to foster this kind of community distribution. Of course, there's like better model. I think there's like
Mhm.
way to improve on top, but ultimately, like it should be in everyone playbook. If you can quote unquote afford it. But the truth is, these projects now are launched in a way where there's distribution for a community, and that just makes people more engaged and so on. Um, of course, there's always the risk of mercenary liquidity and so on, but it's been mitigated by some other projects. Like I've been very impressed in how Universe.xyz is conducting their kind of distribution with 100 weeks of um, tokens kind of being dropped to people staking, and if you unstake, then less of your money is actually worth for it. So it really incentivizes the people holding and believing in the project for the long term. I do think Saffron Finance had a very interesting distribution too back then, a little bit more complicated than what we saw,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, sushi. I think also the way we kind of created this team of contributor core dev where like we basically never ask for any resume to any contributors and always been open to hire anyone that was actually providing value and outputting work in the open, been eye-opening into kind of yeah shipping up this team of builders are like just literally like fully passionate about. There was also kind of this choice very early on that we were going to pay like above market rates for devs, so to kind of mitigate the risk of us being like a DAO and with no entity and so on. I think this was very important, and it's paid out very well for the dev in insight, and also for the community member kind of partaking in this governance and kind of holding into their rewards and so on. Um, yeah, it's been a journey, man. Like it's been incredible. It's almost just 1 year. It feels like literally like 10 years of my life.
Oh my gosh. I kind of get that same feeling because I started with Saffron in November, and we're not as close as you to coming up on 1 year, but we're almost there. And it feels like it has been a lot longer just because of everything happening. I could only imagine, just with the amount of crazy happenings and milestones you guys have hit, what that must feel like for you guys. It's such an accomplishment. You guys should be super proud of yourselves for coming this far. So that touches on something that I have been curious about, because initially, SushiSwap kind of started as this sort of centralized exchange, really briefly with Chef Nomi, and then fully developed into a completely, community-run, decentralized endeavor. Do you think that that is a blueprint that is worth emulating for future protocols and future exchanges where you would at least need, let's say, X amount of time, like maybe, a month or 2 or 3 months to kind of establish something that is more centralized initially, just to get a good uh, game plan going forward for the rest of the community, and then open it up to the masses. What are your thoughts on that sort of approach? Does that
Yeah,
make sense a little bit?
so it does make sense a lot.
Okay.
And for us, internally at Sushi, Chef Nomi didn't want to start including governance, say, or kind of any input from the community early on. Like after 1 week, I was like, oh, maybe it's time to have people like vote on some things and take decisions and involving them and so on, because
Yeah.
that is really what I was striving for, really what I wanted out of this protocol myself.
So that was your
And
vision from the beginning, is that you wanted the
yes,
community to.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And then I realized, afterwards, like, oh shit, maybe that is a mistake. Like some of them are really not kind of understanding this properly, and
Mhm.
the ramification that was that. So for example, we have $14 million worth of ETH, right?
Mhm.
Back in September, some people were pressuring heavily for kind of a buyback. This buyback
Mhm.
happened, and there was absolutely no impact on the price. And it was just incredibly stupid as a decision, I think. We would have held this ETH. I think, like we would have made sure that this protocol was funded for, um, the next 10 years, probably. No joke, no joke. The next 10 year, without ever selling any sushi again for the rest of this project. Now we have theory in USD terms, a profit. We bought at $2 something. It's $2.40 if I remember correctly. So we're still in profit 4x. Um, but in E terms, it's highly different. So I do think, and like, how do we, like, we cannot just be paying all of our bills in sushi. It doesn't make any single sense, right? So I would love to just like go around and showing sushi to people and just like, there you go, this is paid. Thank you very much, sir. But the reality is, we need to pay ETH for dev, or like USDC, USDT, like whatever is kind of their favorite choice of stables, etc. Like there's like kind of some people are a little bit more uh, risk taker, and they don't want to be paid fully in sushi like myself. But it's still yeah, very concerning to me that the community was pushing for this very early on. Some
Mhm.
other proposal that like just didn't make any single sense too early on, um, that were out of touch. I do think like decentralization is a process. For us, like we're reaching 1 year. We have like a little bare bone thing going on. We don't have like a fully on chain governed DAO. I think this should be honestly here by end of this year. Like that's my target personally. Like around December-ish.
Right.
And the thing is, which model do you want to use? Do you want to use something like Aave? Do you want to use something like Synthetics? Or do you want to go for something more like still like snapshot dictatorship yarn cream style? Like it's very difficult. Like we're seeing kind of the flaws of it by the recent kind of listing of Bond, like which
Mhm.
has been very controversial, and there's kind of a bidding war happening. It is very interesting to see evolve all of this, and Synthetics on the other side as this council and has been, I would say, for the most part, efficient and like diligent, and there's not been any issues on it. So it really shows kind of and like the one of the biggest issues in my opinion with the token voting is just the people don't go to vote every single proposal. There's like no kind of
Right.
incentives to do so, or you know penalty if you don't. We'll see how this is kind of all going to play out. It really
It's a
depends
great experiment.
on community. Yeah, it's a great experience. It really depends, like things like inverse finance, where it was initially like non-transferable. It's probably the way I would go now, um instead, for any new project out there listening, I think, like non-transferable is to make sure that you're rewarding people that are actually like contributing something, and it's not for the bad reasons, or they don't necessarily know what they're getting themselves into, and then afterwards you make it quote unquote liquid. Ribbon Finance is also doing something like this.
That's a really good point. That was actually going to breach into one of my other questions. Like, how do you incentivize governance? How do you incentivize community participation? And yeah, I'll have to take a look at some of those projects. And it's a really exciting time. And I think the fact that you had no prior DeFi experience to suddenly be elevated to this extreme, like, let's not mince words here. Like, SushiSwap is the one of the biggest decentralized exchanges in the entire world, and it is so cool to like see your guys's story just kind of have this meteoric rise, and you guys are not even a year old at this point. Like, it is so wild. Um, but I know you guys have a ton of like products on offer and stuff that you offer to your different users. In the most recent one, um, I want to hear a little bit more about this next generation automated market maker called Trident. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that at all?
Yeah, Trident is our next gen AMM. I think it's like the most important part about it is the term flexibility. You can leverage, a very normal kind of constant product pool like we have right now on Sushi, or you can do something more similar to Curve, where you have like similar type of assets, and you can have multiple of them in one pool. We can talk about flavors of ETH. We can talk about flavors of Bitcoin. We can talk about stables. There is really kind of no limits here, and this also kind of comes into our kind of multi-chain approach. That could anyway. I don't want to leak too much alpha, but this is something to think about. And
Sure.
then we also have like this kind of pseudo order book similar to what UniV3 is doing. So with the ranches, I think it's been incredible to see it evolve in the wild. It's been highly competitive against all of the other exchanges in the market, the DEXs. So I don't think personally like it's perfect product. I think it's really kind of a toolbox for sophisticated actors to leverage it and kind of come up with their own strategies to in part, like the detriment of the lazy older or LP, lazy LP. So it is not like a fix all solution, and that's why most of the liquidity and most of the launches are still happening on Sushi, on Uniswap V2. They're not happening on V3. It's really kind of a very different landscape, in my opinion. And we also have like this last one, this last type of pool that is basically like similar to an index, where you can have like a various kind of proportion of your portfolio, which is akin to Balancer. And all of these kind of pools and so on are being like when you do an order in Sushi, routed via like Tines, which is our own sort of routing engine, which you could do a parallel with 1inch for it. If
Hmm.
you would like to kind of imagine it for the people that are actually have some DeFi knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a little bit like what we've been working on. It should be available like in early September, depending on the audits, pipeline audit goes. I think we did like a little bit of tweaking to the constant product pool, so our new sushi pools are a little bit more gas efficient. We were able to shave 10% on gas transaction on
Wow.
it, so that is going to be for mainnet a little helpful too. It's not like crazy out there, but like when Gwei it's over 100, and like there's like all these JPEG being minted. It's just that's the best thing that you can wish for.
Yeah, well, that adds up. I mean, 10%, that adds up for sure. I mean, one of the biggest hurdles that we encountered earlier this year was when, we kind of had that, whether we want to call it a bull run or not. I guess the clock is still ticking on that or whatnot. But yeah, it was costing our users a ton of ETH in gas fees. to stake and unstake on our protocol. And so yeah, 10%, like that's great. That
Yeah.
adds up for sure.
Thank
I
God we
did.
have like layer two around the corner and
I
all
know.
these kind of deployment on sidechain. Like for anyone that haven't used, I think like Polygon or one of these like I think we have over like 10 sidechains right now at Sushi, like whether it is XDAI, Harmony, Avalanche, and so on. Like you can like low fees are possible in this day and age, which
Mhm.
wasn't before, by the way. It was like there was absolutely no solution on this scaling issue, but now even like more robust solution layer two are coming online, like Arbitrum. I'm so excited about it.
I am too.
ZK rollups are going to be a game changer in my opinion. So we'll see what happens there, but yeah, gas fees is probably the only one of the only, I guess, obstacle in your way for kind of major adoption, in my opinion. Like
I Yeah,
for
I
like
agree.
the normies out there, for the regular crowd, they will never get over paying for a transaction, paying to make an action on the interwebs. Like
Yes.
for them, it is an alien concept. For us, degens and crypto ads, we are built different, so we're able to mitigate this.
Yeah.
But it's a learning curve, and it is. I remember early on, as you made to like spending these, I don't know, $2-3 at 5 Quay was pretty intimidating, and nobody wanted to try these smart contracts because of you could be hacked or you could be robbed or something.
Mhm.
So it's always, especially with flash loans now. But anyways, this is, yeah, we're gonna get there when layer two is, I think, fully unlocked.
Yeah, I am so excited about that. Like I just have such a great feeling about this year, the rest of this year, and then going into 2022. I did kind of want to ask you this question, and if it's something you would rather not comment on, it's totally fine. But I was curious because is there any like bad blood between the Sushi Swap team and the Uniswap team, or is it more of like a, hey, we finally have like the Uniswap team being like, hey, we finally have some serious competition. Um, like this has caused us to make all these positive changes, like rolling out the Uniswap, governance tokens and making changes to our protocol. Do you find that in this industry as it is continues to emerge, do you find that kind of competition is healthy or is it hurtful?
Um, you know, I'm pretty friendly with. I like Uniswap per se, and I kind of look at their kind of progress and so on. But I don't think this is reciprocated. Yeah, I don't think they like us. I think they're
Oh,
pretty salty about all of this. Um, Personally, it's just we're doing our own thing. We're kind of moving with the community.
mhm.
We're listening to them. It's basically like the Uniswap I wanted to see. That's kind of what personally I was driven to do. If I could
Yeah,
have done everything I could and contribute to Uniswap back then, I would have done it, man. I
yeah,
wanted to I wanted to get involved, and it was not possible. I told you earlier, the walls to get into crypto were very high, and that's why whenever I hire someone, it's all about the output. I don't care who they are. I don't care how old they are. It is really just about, are you able to do it, to the job? Are you passionate about this? Is it something that you want to do? And so on. And if it's the case, and like we do a trial, we give them a chance.
yeah,
And if it works out, man, we hire them. Like that is the most, I think, open and decentralized way to do things. There's no where are you from? There's no what is your bank account? It's literally like we send them sushi at their address of choice. They make the work for us, and there you go. And this was not possible. Today they have like this grant program, amazing, great. But
mhm,
they're still a council. They're still kind of gatekeepers in some way. Um, Why is not the community able to voice which project should be receiving grants instead?
Mhm.
It's kind of there's always something. There's always something that this fails. You know,
Right.
and the distribution we can talk about it. I think they potentially deserve it. They truthfully deserve it. But when you put this in mind with kind of sushi, and you think about the fact that the team at sushi has 0.8% of the supply, circulating supply for the entire team, 20 plus people. Start to think about like, yeah, I don't know, maybe that's fair. I think yeah, we don't have like 40% of our supply or something like
Yeah.
this. I don't know, just some food for thoughts. And this is kind of my perspective. And you can see it in other projects too. You're in finance. The team didn't even add token. Can you believe it? If this is not the most pure thing I've ever seen, and they had to mint them tokens, and which they totally deserve in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, but it can be done afterwards with the community at all. If the community think that they deserve it, so be it. But the fact that all of this was done in a vacuum, um, yeah, with barely like any input from no one, this is what is wrong. Look at
Yeah.
the governance. Look at the governance. Like it's just at some point, like we're moving on our own path. Like we are not even like I wrote a roadmap for 2021 for sushi where I wanted the core dev to move, and they've been hitting all of the checkpoints everywhere. Like it's if you go look at the checklist, it's done, 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 and then you realize, damn, and there's even things that I didn't know we're gonna be spawning from this team of builders, creative. Show you is an example of it. Like we're gonna be dabbling into NFT exchange very soon. How exciting is this?
Oh,
Would you
that's
have
fun.
even seen would you have even seen the space blow up 1 year ago? I mean, potentially, but like crypto punks were very underground, very unknown.
Yeah.
Uh, it's similar to like autoglyph and kind of all these things. That was just crazy. And for this platform, what we really want to be doing is, yes, trading of NFTs, of course, but also kind of enabling these creators and artists to actually start to dabble in social tokens a little bit more too. Something that was left for dead with Cent.co, if you remember, CNT. We
Mhm.
want these artists to kind of potentially like offer the services against tokens or consultations or dedicated time with fans or conferences, whatever you want to call it. I do think there's like a lot of unexplored potential around this for yeah, these creatives. And all at the very bottom, everything is powered by sushi for the trading of these tokens. For the NFTs, there's like a minimal fee going to Ixu Shoulder for this. And this is how we kind of fund this platform. We're not launching new tokens with, like strange distribution and so on. We were thinking about it, but
Mhm.
we're not too sure yet. We want to make this great. No, we don't want to overcomplicate things. We don't want to have a community that is too, I would say, focused on the price action and kind of the speculative aspect.
Right.
And inherently, this is what you create with a token. You can like of course create like diehard fans with the tokens and people that gonna have a sense of ownership, but the line is very fine, and we try to yeah stay off of it as much as possible. We might we might get there, but we'll see. It needs to be very thoughtful when you do so. But anyways,
No, I absolutely love it because it's just like you guys have all these potential ideas in the pipeline. You're always thinking ahead. You're always looking to innovate and iterate on the stuff that you have, and I think it's phenomenal. And I really love what you said earlier about how, and maybe I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but like you basically created the Uniswap that you wanted to see, essentially. And, the free market kind of also, clearly by your massive success with SushiSwap, the free market kind of also wanted to see that too. So it's really cool how this all sort of just kind of works in lockstep with each other. And, I think that kind of competition between you and Uniswap, even though you guys are both kind of branching out and doing your own things now at this point, I think it's just healthy for our industry because it pushes both protocols to work harder and make and iterate more, and just ultimately the end user benefits, I feel like, from that.
And you know what's the problem here,
Mm,
and why this is gonna keep happening? And maybe like someone will want to build the sushi they want to see that I
yeah.
cannot help, for example. And I think this is like a broader kind of thing that needs to be more democratized. If there would have been incentives to fork the front end and kind of run away with it, I am 100% sure there would be more teams contributing to Uniswap, and they
Really?
would have been more aligned. Oh yeah, 100%. The fact that people assume you can only like fork codes and work for free or maintain these for free is stupid. It is ridiculous. And then the main protocol or UI is not even giving any exposure to these quote unquote fork or work of love from contributors is
Right.
stupid. It's totally stupid. And that's why, like for sushi, like I really want to get this proposal out of the way where, we're gonna be able to not only incentivize like these front ends, but potentially like developers are also kind of using sushi money Legos to do like swapping. I think it's the base. I think everyone should be able to earn like by contributing back to their own protocol. Of course, there's going to be abuse, and of
Right.
course, you need to put like some guards in place. But this is a process that we need to start working towards. And liquidity, I think LUSD has been doing it. Have they been successful? It's hard to quote unquote evaluate right now.
Mm,
But I think in the long run, it's going to pay off for them. It is highly difficult to retain eyeball attention from very talented people, mostly because they can spin up their own thing and make more money potentially. Worse, like they are like retired and they just don't feel like they need to push any further. So you really need to have something in place so people can just take it, run with it, and build their own magic. And if this would have been in place, maybe here today I wouldn't be talking with you, Dino. To be frankly honest with
mm,
you, I would have contributed in a heartbeat.
right.
And this is what I am. I am someone that is driven and passionate. And yeah, this is just like sushi was the perfect kind of environment for me to thrive and let my quote unquote workaholic person self, you know, just do what I love. So this is something to consider. And with regulator kind of coming into play, it's gonna need to happen because
Yeah.
otherwise we're gonna see like more censoring happening. We're gonna see more pressure from them and so on. And the moment we kind of start to play with their rules, which is good in some capacity, but once you're kind of too deep into the hole and you can't crawl back, then this is where everything we've built is basically useless.
Yeah. Man, you are on fire. I'm really loving this, and I can tell that your passion and enthusiasm for this space is just it's infectious, and it kind of drips off of every word you said. And yeah, I mean that kind of segues perfectly into my next question. It's like, yeah, it's getting to the point where we're probably going to start seeing regulations soon. How do you have any kind of anticipation of those? Any kind of like predictions on how that might impact the space? Do you think we'll see some sort of like market panic briefly, and then a
I think
overall.
I think like all the regulation FUD and so on is since inception, since crypto existed, since Bitcoin was here, like, how are we gonna regulate this? How are we gonna control this? The truth is, you cannot. The truth is, it is way harder than just trying to send some puinas and so on to some random people that you don't even know where they are. That, for as far as I know, are in a cave in Pakistan. Okay, so you can do whatever you want, but you won't get to them. Okay, and even if you get to them, like, it's running on the fucking blockchain. You can't stop it unless there's like some admin keys, and we hope that all of them are burned. Otherwise, Chris Blake is gonna knock at your door. And yeah, ultimately, like, I think these protocols, I've been seeing like initiative like Lex nodes popping on Yearn governance forum, on Curve forum too, and probably like at Sushi we're gonna start to discuss about it very soon too. The truth is, all these protocols, they're gonna need to get some general concealed. There's gonna be kind of a truce where everyone talks, and like we've seen this DeFi fund from Uniswap, regardless of how it went and how broken this is, hopefully we're gonna see some positive ROI on it. If not, that's just a joke. But I do think, yeah, we're gonna see like more like professionalization on this part of the spectrum in the ecosystem. Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be good? This is hard to tell. I think maybe some people are going to get excluded of this kind of new financial system, like Americans, like we just saw in the YDX new airdrop.
The airdrop, yes, I was gonna.
Yeah, Americans are just like are not worthy of receiving free money because it is for their protection to stay poor. Like they're not going to make it, and it's sad, but at the same time, there's been some very dubious ICOs in 2017, and at some point, like people will always call full play when something goes wrong. When the investment goes up, nobody will ever complain, or nobody will get in trouble. But whenever like shit hit the fan, this is when like, oh, let's get the lawyers involved, oh, blah blah blah, etc. Or like of course there's like some very bad intention and ill-minded people and scammers. You would assume that in crypto, where one of the most kind of revered line is DYOR, would actually be quote unquote like leverage more. But yeah, at the very end, all these kind of concern about KYC, about regulation, it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough, but I think we're gonna survive it. I think we're gonna make it on the other side, and I think it is better now than never. Like better comes at some point, and hopefully we can legitimize it instead of shunning it. And I've listened to Gensler a little bit. It's just it's always boomers, It's always boomers kind of looking at all of this. They don't understand what is happening on for all the other peoples, and they don't understand kind of the value because they're entrenched in this old system, kind of favoring this old institution and kind of not moving the status quo and so on. So that's why we are in crypto, and that's why we're working in DeFi, and that's why I think it is very important to kind of stand our grounds and at least try to let's just educate them, but show them literally like how it can be done even without them. So that because there is truly like crazy value being created in DeFi. It is like people in the bank industry, I can tell you, are looking at us and they are salivating, they are mind blown. Like some of these systems are still running on COBOL mainframe. Like, can you believe how far, how out of touch this is?
I know, man.
For them, like they literally like skipped an entire cycle almost. Like they literally like skipped the whole Web2 thing. They're still like they're not even in web. They're like in, man, it's just crazy to me. And like they're looking at the blockchain. They're looking at what we can do with this, and it's a threat. Literally, it's a threat. I think for them. If they don't integrate, if they don't start to contribute, if they don't quote unquote fork it or use it, I think they're gonna left to dust in nothing farther than like 10 years, in my opinion. Like I really think so. It's
Yeah.
that big of a deal.
I think you're 100% right, and I think like what really also speaks to me on a philanthropic level is that just the ability for crypto to help so many people in poverty uplift themselves, and the massive potential that it possesses. And Jack Mahler's had a wonderful speech at Bitcoin Miami 2 months ago about his time in El Salvador, and kind of how, something staggering like 80%, 85+% of El Salvadorians don't have access to bank accounts, even though ultimately the buck kind of stops with their economy. Like the buck kind of stops with our own US dollar, yet they cannot open, bank accounts and invest in foreign markets. What?
And that is why, like, some people, they don't realize crypto is not necessarily for you in your comfy ass in North America, in
Yeah,
Europe,
yeah.
where you have a decent like banking system. This shit
Mhm.
is for everyone. All
Bingo.
right, and this
Yes.
is like way more than like the very few privileged people that can have, easy banking and transfer the at a touch of a finger with whatever is the trendy app in the States right now. I have like, whether it's Square or Venmo or whatever, PayPal, like all of this is not necessarily remotely accessible to everyone. And this is
Yeah.
why kind of DeFi shines, is that no, everyone can just spin up like a Chrome extension and literally like start, swapping. They can find P2P people, they can go on ramp. It's kind of, we came such a long way since the beginning. So I think it would be delusional to think that we're not gonna even push further away.
Yeah. I know we're coming up on time a little bit. How are you doing on time? Do you have like an extra 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, or are you pretty strict right now?
Yeah, we can go for like 10 more.
Okay, 10 more. Awesome. Thank you so much. Because you did touch upon something really briefly, because at the beginning of this podcast, you mentioned Avalanche a bit, and that is also another one that up until I believe it was a few months ago, Americans also couldn't buy into that. Americans, like, you had to be considered an accredited investor to be able to buy Avalanche, until I want to say it was maybe OK Coin, or maybe there was one exchange that it's not like one of the most popular ones, but they finally started listing that, and it made it available for Americans to purchase. And I'm bullish on Avalanche. I think that there's a lot of potential there. I like the team. I like the founder a lot, and I've used the tech myself, and it's pretty cool. And I just wonder, like, what are your thoughts on, on a macro level, if the United States doesn't get, their act together, and they get left out of these, airdrops, out of purchasing these new tokens, out of all this sort of stuff. Do you think that this could eventually negatively impact the entire country, when you have all these millennials that, aren't able to invest in the same kind of technology that their, brothers and sisters across, the Atlantic can?
I think it's a matter of just like, in the States, to be honest with you, they're probably gonna get like, yeah, how you call it, segregated from the
Yeah.
entire kind of DeFi world for a few years, and then when some people with their act together are gonna be in Congress, and like, who knows, maybe it's gonna be some people from another generation that come up and say like, yeah, this is just like complete nonsense, like it's just completely stupid, and then they're gonna like finally scrap all of this, and they're gonna be partaking in all of this, because the truth is all the builders are not gonna be building in the States. all
Yeah.
the all the traders, all the people that are actually like involved are just gonna not stay in the States, and you're gonna see an exode, and hopefully it's gonna be to yeah, some better grounds, who knows. I mean, ultimately, like, it would be very cool to have like a crypto country, but that's another thing.
Country.
That's for, yeah, that's when you're too deep the rabbit hole, like, we cannot start to
Yeah.
talk about this today, like it would be a little bit too extreme.
A little
uh,
bit.
like, you can get some very very compelling cases for that, but that would be
Yeah.
next level. Like, building already, like, we have a bunch of add-ons like building this whole kind of new financial system. Let's not get them to rebuild a country in one day, but
Yeah. Well, gosh.
but I do think, like tapping into kind of building these new governance models is also going to be very important. And, like to be honest with you, at Sushi, like once, this AMM is launched, once we have like all our product, quote unquote, like at their prime, I hope that we can potentially like diverge some of our dev efforts into like public goods. Things are not necessarily to accrue fees and money to like the sushi holders, and like basically like just gives for the whole kind of community, whether this is like governance, whether this is we're about to actually release something for liquidity mining, so people can basically spin up their own and kind of have the same access to same tools that we have access to. We built like a massive suite of things like to power Sushi itself. And like if you want a sneak peek, by the way, just some alpha for everyone. You can go at Sushi, Sushi. I think it's a dash, or I don't know how to say it in English. So like in the middle
Oh,
of
so
search.
yeah, so sushi hyphen or sushi
Hyphen.
dash. Yeah, sushi like basically what we're looking at here is sushi dash ops dot surge dot sh is what we're looking at.
So this is one of the public facing kind of operation tools that we have at Sushi. We have like 3, 4 of them that are just like kind of helping us run all these liquidity mining initiative, all kind of the operation at Sushi. It's just like Yarn is doing it with Banteg language to operate not so safe. And we want to be following these things because man, Yarn are freaking powerhouse of DeFi,
Yes, they
and
are.
they're like trailblazing so many things. It would be foolish to not follow along, follow on their steps, and that's why we've been kind of partners since December, and it's been a wild ride. So
Yeah. Gosh, man, this interview is one of my favorites up there. I love your passion, love your enthusiasm, and it's just been such a great opportunity to be able to just sit down and talk candidly with you about some of the stuff. As we close out here today, I would be a little remiss if I didn't talk about Saffron Finance a little bit. So I guess maybe as we close, if you would like to talk a little bit about maybe SushiSwap's relationship with Saffron, or your personal thoughts maybe on risk tranching and how that can kind of help move DeFi forward a little bit.
yeah, we've been supporters of Psykeeper work and the entire team very early on. I think it's like just with the double incentives that we were running together. I think it's a great. I won't talk about like just specifically Saffron because I think like let's go a little bit more high level, like everything related to tranche and so on, like whether this is Saffron, whether this is like other project. I think there's something here that is really kind of yet to be tapped into in a major way. And once this kind of unfold and unlock, it's going to be highly powerful. And that's why, I think potentially like these use cases needs to be pushed out by DAOs, like by Saffron. Maybe they need to come knock at Sushi door to the community and kind of propose something that could be highly beneficial for both. We are like just thinking about everything you can do with kind of liquidity mining and the output, and how we can potentially like do some for the people who are willing to take a little bit more risk and have a higher payout down the line to get like a senior trench instead of like getting like just spending on a token. Like just you see what I mean here. Like there's some very interesting kind of experiment that can take place, and even though these are very kind of touchy to touch, like nobody, no LPs wants to hear about, oh, we're going to be changing how they get paid out, like their rewards. But if we do like a compelling case, I do think for the people, for the LPs are like long-term minded, and they can have a bonus, quote unquote, by kind of subscribing to these kind of trench products. That would be huge, man. I think so, personally. Because like we have like the vesting in place. This is not the way to do it, man. This is not DeFi friendly. We need something yeah, dredge product and so on. But how do you think we should be collaborating? How do you think Saffron should be actually like pushing more things forward?
Hmm. I'd say it definitely starts with a lot of good partnerships and like listening to our community, because I think that we can look at kind of your success with SushiSwap, and we can look at sort of the broad strokes of how you deviated from Uniswap and kind of take from that the importance on community feedback, the importance of having a clear vision sort of moving forward. And really, if anything, I welcome kind of the healthy competition that we have in the risk tranching space, because in the end, it is going to make our protocol that much better. And in the end, it's going to make the whatever protocol comes out on top that much better for the end user. So there's a lot of things here that I'm really just bullish for. I'm really excited for. We've got a lot of stuff that we're going to be announcing in the coming weeks and months, especially now that version 2 is finally on the horizon, and it's going to be. I'm just super excited for it. So yeah, I think it's a lot of.
I would always abstract competition. I would always abstract competition. Don't think about it as competition. The pie is so big in DeFi. If you really want to think in an adversarial way, frenemies. But to me, it's sort of coworkers. Literally, to me, they're like teammates, coworkers that all kind of working towards like the same goal, and we're doing our own things. Our own vision, like I said. And
Yeah, I like that.
if you're if somehow maybe your vision is not the best one. It is
Mhm.
possible. And in this case, you can always kind of uh, pivot, do other things. I've been seeing like one of these most interesting pivot I've seen recently is Charm Finance that was doing options, leverage cube, but actually found product market fit with UniV3 vaults, where they are actually providing a passive experience for LP because
Huh.
it is needed, it is a problem, and they were solving it. And all to their honor, like Max and Tom have been incredible to follow along this path and journey. And they
Hmm.
are anonymous too. They are non-docs from what I understand. I've never heard their voice. And yeah, man, it's just sometimes it is what it is. There's also like people when they realize, like I was talking with like okay, so I have this like very weird obsession about options in DeFi somehow. I really like them.
Okay.
Um and I was following also primitive finance, what they've been doing. And their V1 was okay. It was not like a success because I don't know, lack of liquidity, marketing, who knows? Like it can always, maybe it was lack of tokens,
Mhm.
who knows? Or maybe the appetite for these products needs to be more lazy, needs to be more passive, similar to what Ribbon is doing on top of Open, where, it is you just deposit money and they will buy the call or puts or everything related to it for you. And
Mhm.
this is what is popular, and this is what they've been able to max their cap, like 10 million, 30 million each time. So, I've been talking with Alex and it was like, yeah, we're going to be going for a V2 instead of, pursuing this kind of vision. And to me, this is so cool. Like to see kind of things evolve in real time. People like literally just, they wake up, they code, they eat, they go sleep. They wake up, they engage in DeFi and crypto, and it's just, man, it can be tiring. And I know life is not just about this, and I
Mhm.
don't want to encourage kind of this highly workaholic schedule and so on to anyone. But I really think when you find your true purpose, that's what it looks like. And
Mhm.
of course, kind of stepping back a little bit and not just being absorbed by this whole universe that is crypto, where you can go on for weeks, even years. Like studying Ethereum, to be honest with you, I think is, and just Ethereum itself, like not just like blockchain and crypto at large, I think it's a 2 years process.
Hmm.
And I am very honest with you here. It's a 2 year
Okay.
process to really kind of steep up the whole kind of learning curve. and it is increasing every single day. Like for myself, I have like a reading list of things I need to look up right now because I am too absorbed on my side. And these projects are popping up left and right, and it is so freaking cool. Being in the frontier of DeFi is probably the most exciting thing one can do right now if he is in his like teenage years to 30s. I think it's really one of the most, it's hard to keep up, but
Yeah.
it is the most fascinating thing ever.
I 100% agree. And that, Maki, I got to thank you for that. Those words of advice, like not viewing it as competition, because especially after hearing your story with SushiSwap and Uniswap and that kind of stuff, it kind of clicked for me just when you mentioned that. Just kind of like you view it as in a completely sort of different sort of manner, because I love that.
If you go, if you come from a legacy path where you've been in tech startups, where you've been in this kind of molded by this competition and kind of always need to fight against someone or something, like in the States, very hard to get out of it. And it's very kind of old school, if you ask me. The people are talking about competition and kind of fighting in DeFi are always a little bit older, if you look it up.
Interesting.
Mostly because I don't know, man. Maybe they're not used to cooperation and kind of teamwork. Like we can all win. Like that is kind of the whole point here. We can all win together, even though it sounds impossible. I can 100% tell you that this is the case. And if you don't believe me, we were running incentives on Uni token since almost inception. You couldn't do anything with your Uni token, beside like, of course, like voting and LPing on Uniswap to get some fees, but you could LP on Sushi and get also our community token if you wanted. Like that's like, we are actually not kind of adversarial as much as people think. And of course, like I cannot speak up for all of the community members, and I cannot kind of be engaged in all the communication. And some people might be a little bit more harsh or toxic.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like that's not what I'm preaching. If I was preaching this, I would be a totally different discussion. So.
Well, that's a lot of wisdom, and I think you hit it on the head, especially as someone who is American and has come from traditional background. And this is my second year into the crypto stuff. Like it's definitely adjusting a little bit for that. But yeah, and just talking with these really highly successful creators and innovators like yourself and others that appear on this podcast, it's really, you do get this sense of camaraderie and this we're all trying to better ourselves. And yeah, man, Maki, really, it has been such an honor to be able to sit down and talk with you. I'm sorry that we ran over time a little bit, but I couldn't help myself, man. You were such an interesting person. You're such an interesting person to talk to, man.
It's all good. I can tell you though, Saffron Finance with Psykeeper there it is one of the projects that I'm following, and it is tremendously crazy how talented this dev is. Like in the anonymous kind of community, I can tell you he is in top 5 easily, in my opinion.
I would 100% agree with that. And it's every day, like when we touch base and when we talk and he talks to me about what he's working on and how he's accomplishing all this stuff, it always just blows my mind. Like I don't think I've ever met anyone as smart as him. And of course, I'm sure he's going to be listening to this and just laughing to himself, but it's absolutely true. But Maki, I won't keep you any longer. I know we've gone over time twice now, but seriously, man, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down. It has been truly an honor.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, Dino, and it was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself, man. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to go and rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at saffronfinance_. We also have communities on Discord and Telegram, and you can find the links to those in the show notes. We'll see you guys next time.